around for salvation. I've been looking around for the truth. All around me I see frustration, and I looked all over till I found you. I sit and listen to your stories, and you're telling me, please don't worry. There's a lot in this world you should know, and love in life is where you should go. If you're looking for somewhere to go, if you're looking for someone to know, if you're looking for someone to guide you, then love in life will guide you. I know that life outside is so hard. There's a lot of things that can tear you apart. I know the roads sometimes feel lonely, but remember you're not the one and only. There's always someone there to help you, a helping hand to pull you through. There's only one thing you should do: take my hand and join the Love and Laugh crew. If you're looking for somewhere to go, if you're looking for someone to know, if you're looking for someone to guide you, then let love and life guide you.
Good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world, and welcome to tonight's live stream. Well, before we get on to that, let me just say in the next day or two, the Truth channel on YouTube will be unlocked. So I will be returning to that channel for regular live streams and updates on South African news. This Loving Life YouTube channel is just used as a backup. Tonight we're talking about evil Halloween. Halloween is not an event any Christian should be involved in any way. With the spiritual war currently waging around us all the event does is glorify Satan. Young men and women who attended Halloween parties in South Korea faced a horrific scene over the weekend in which nearly 150 died due to a sudden panic in the crowd, resulting in many being crushed to death. Here is some news that came out last night on that tragedy. Let's have a look at that.
Kind, caring, with an infectious smile. That's how Grace Reshed will be remembered by her family, the 23-year-old Australian woman killed in a horrific crowd crush in South Korea.
Several other Australians have been injured, some critically, amid rising anger about why police didn't do more to stop the disaster.
I was really very Halloween on TikTok, Grace Ratchett dressed as Audrey Hepburn.
Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Before these young Australians hit the streets of Seoul to party. That's where the fun ends. Nathan Tavaniti's next post on social media is heartbreaking.
These are my friends, and last night I witnessed my friends being crushed at intertwine.
100,000 young people jammed in narrow alleyways in Seoul's nightlife district as Halloween made a comeback from COVID. In there somewhere, 23-year-old Grace from Sydney.
I was there when she said she couldn't breathe. And I grabbed one of my friend's hands. There was no stampede. It was a slow and agonizing crush.
Grace Ratchett, who attended Canterbury Girls High, was a traveller and a budding film producer.
You see it in the cinematic form and you premiere it and it's like, there's no words, like, what do you say?
Her family today spoke of their loss. Grace showed us all what it meant to be an incredible human being. We will all deeply miss our beautiful Grace, our life of the party. Silvio Cohill was an old uni mate. He was planning to celebrate her 24th birthday in coming days.
She was the type of person that everyone would want to gravitate towards. Like, she had all the time in the world for you. She was just this beaming light.
Grace only landed in South Korea less than 2 weeks ago.
She's here!
Her other two friends in the group are believed to be in intensive care in hospital, while another Australian, Olivia Jakovich, who lives in Seoul, made it out, only just.
I just wanted to get out of there. I was using my arms, squishing out, like I don't care that my clothes were getting ripped, like I just got out of there on the sideline.
The scene of such horror has now been transformed into a memorial, the country's president laying flowers. South Korea has never had to deal with such loss of life in a single accident.
This tragedy has impacted people in South Korea in particular, but it's also impacted in the harshest way possible one Australian family.
A finger of blame has been firmly pointed at police. Where were they?
I think my friend said she saw one police officer in that crowd.
There are reports police have been assigned to a protest in the city, leaving the partygoers like Nathan Tavaniti to watch so many die.
There's so many people. What are you going to do with 10 people? And I had to turn around and I told the crowd, you can't come this way. People are dying.
Damien Ryan, 9 News.
All right. There we go, guys. That was just a bit of an update on what happened in South Korea. Now, tonight, I have a pre-recorded live stream where I talk to Muzi Nkosi about Halloween and the worship of ancestral spirits among the African tribes. Now, the reason we're doing, just for people who don't know, pre-recorded live streams is often because of load shedding. We've had to postpone or cancel live streams. So in those circumstances, we do pre-recordings so that we can still play them at 8 p.m. Johannesburg time. All right, let's get right on to that live stream with Muzi. Here we go. Hi, Muzi. How are you, buddy?
Hi, Scott. I'm doing well, and yourself?
Excellent, mate. Excellent. Look, we're going to be talking about Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm someone who really didn't have much to do with Halloween. I mean, I grew up in East Africa, and we didn't have people walking around with packets of sweets and stuff like that, and going knocking on doors. But Halloween is a very sinister and evil practice, which has its origins in very rough places. Do you want to take us through what the origins of Halloween are?
All right. Well, Halloween's origins can be found, in paganism. And it makes perfect sense because of all the scary, spooky elements that is involved in it. All the mediums and all the imagery and so on. And there's many, well, there's not many, but there's a few sources that people could look at, but you could find that the Druids and the Celtic people who were into, let's say, a religious group like the Druids, yeah, they pretty much started it, honoring the dead, so on and so on. And hint, hint, doesn't that sound familiar to you know who lives in this country, right? So Halloween's origin basically is a bunch of pagans honoring the dead. As to why, well, they believe that it was to lighten the suffering of the departed souls. It was to minimize their own suffering that wandering souls could bring upon them. So that is just pagan in nature.
Yeah. No, mate, look, you're very close to the action there, because when you talk about in the Black African culture, the worship of, or the talking to the dead, is a huge part of ancestry, isn't it?
It is. So basically, here in Southern Africa, we've been having Halloween since day one. Every single day is Halloween. If you have a medium under your bed with a stick and maybe 2 rand, because that's, you know, the idol that they use to communicate with the dead. And so, yeah, Halloween's pretty much every day here, basically, since people see it normal to talk to the dead.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay. So when we talk about talking to the dead, we're talking about something that's basically been passed down through the ages, aren't we?
Well, specifically, people who have departed from this life. And the Bible says it's appointed once for man to die, then the judgment, and that there's only heaven and hell. And so these pagans who say, oh, they're dead spirits of their family or grandfathers walking around, well, that's incorrect. Your grandfather is either in the fire or is with Christ. And so they can't necessarily prove that that truly is their grandfather or not. So you believe in something you think it's true. You know, you can't even prove it. Whereas we can prove that Jesus is real and who he said he was because of all the prophecy that came to be and the effects of the Holy Spirit that is written. That alone proves that it's true. And so we can believe that, okay, this person was a murderer, he's in hell. This person repented, okay, he's in heaven.
Yeah. Look, I go no further than Mr. President, you know. I call him Hippo-Eyes, Cyril Ramaphosa. And Cyril Ramaphosa was apparently a Christian when he was a young man. He was a leader in the Christian church. And what I've seen in recent years is video footage of him going to witch doctors and basically celebrating, you know, the ancestral side and getting right into that sort of stuff. Is this prevalent right through the Black African culture?
It is, because what people don't understand is that, you know, the African who has not truly been born again, whose personality and desires have not been supernaturally changed, he doesn't have an identity outside of his culture. So someone like Cyril, who's been a liar, he never got born again. He just went into the church, saw what he could gain from it, but he identifies with his tribe. And his tribe still talks to the ancestors and talk to witch doctors. So he's always going to go back to his people, his tribe. He can't stand by himself. He doesn't have a sense of individuality because he'd feel butt naked. And that's most with all African people, in which if I were to correct one African person about anything, the African person across the street who overhears this would be offended that I'm correcting him as if I'm correcting the guy on the street. You ask him, what do you have to do with this? Because I'm talking to him. And he'll say, hey, this is our thing. You can't do this. But the same person getting mad for me correcting this guy would kill this guy tomorrow to take his lunch, you know? But because they don't have any individuality, they just have to come together under skin color, under the tribe, even though they don't like each other. So it's a problem of a lack of individual thought. And without individual thought, you can't ask questions that can benefit you as an individual. It only has to benefit the tribe. And in Cyril's case, that's the case. The church, he didn't see how the church on itself could benefit himself or the tribe, so he had to go back to the witch doctor.
Is it also an escape mechanism? Because, I mean, if you look at the ANC and how corrupt they are, you know, they can always say, oh, well, this is what the ancestors told us to do.
Yeah, it is an escape. But I wouldn't... I do believe them if they say this is what the ancestors told them. The ancestors are demons. Demons are destructive and chaotic. They bring about death, not prosperity. And so if they really say the ancestor told me to do it, told me to steal the money, well, that's evil. Of course they told you to do that. You know, so go figure.
Yeah. Now tell me, Muzi, how is Halloween? Let's get back to Halloween. This is this tradition that's in the West that is tied up with Guy Fawkes and trying to blow up the British Parliament and whenever it was, I can't remember the year. But, you know, it's become a very, very strong symbol of Satanism. How is it linked with the Catholic religion?
Well, you know, firstly, I'd say people can't even notice that Halloween's a strong symbol for Satanism at all. And because of all the candy and the nice illustrated cartoon monsters and the Halloween and the pumpkin face, the angry, scary pumpkin face. So it's like adorable in a way where you can't take it seriously. But how it's linked with the Catholic Church is that Catholicism in general also practice ancestor worship because they pray to dead saints. They pray to Peter, they pray to Paul, they have statues of them. Heck, they pray to Mary, who's just an average woman, but they call her Queen Mother or Mother of Heaven, so on and so on.
Yeah.
Exactly. And where's that in the Bible they read? Nowhere. And so, like, it's got a strong link because if now we know that Halloween is linked to honoring the dead or helping the dead suffer less in the afterlife, that's what Catholics do with the idea of purgatory, in which you don't go to heaven when you die, because to go to heaven, you have to die in a state of grace. What the heck does that even mean? You most likely go to purgatory, where you'll burn a little bit to extinguish some of the sins. And then you can pray for people in purgatory to go to heaven sooner. That idea is linked with paganism. You know, the fact that, again, you pray and talk to dead people, Peter and so on, that right there is paganism. So Halloween was brought into the American shoreline by the Irish Catholics. And I think the Druids and Celtics, well, I think they were in the Irish region. And so, whoop-de-doo, they converted to Catholicism, saw that, hey, as a Catholic, I can still practice Halloween. They joined the two together, right? As that's what Catholicism does, basically, joining paganism and Christianity. And they brought it to America. And America being so capitalistic, they knew how to package this this religion, this festival. They packaged it nicely, put a bow on it, and sold it to the people as something fun. And we have it today as it is.
Yeah, look, I totally get that. And what I find very, very disturbing is that the Pope is an advocate to change the whole focus of religion, not into the traditional major religions like Christianity, like Islam and the Jewish religion, but bringing them under one big mantle where, regardless of your particular religious focus, you are all worshipping the same God, which flies totally in the face of the Bible. And that is coming from the Catholic religion, isn't it?
Yeah, the Pope is the false prophet in Revelation 13. The Pope is the one who's going to make the world worship the Antichrist. And surprisingly enough, all of a sudden, there's this Jewish guy who's being deemed by the old Jewish rabbi as possibly their Messiah, because all of a sudden, this guy's performing miracles. You guys can look it up. I forgot his name, Yanuka something.
Yeah.
But he's a young, super young Jewish guy whom I thought the Antichrist would have to be this bold leader with an iron fist to the sky. But technically, he's not. He's so humble. He's so humble, it's ridiculous. I've never seen somebody this humble. And it made me remember how in Exodus described Moses as being the most humble man who ever lived. And you know the Jews love Moses. So here we are now in a world where we're living in the end times, knowing that the Pope is the false prophet who's going to make people worship the Antichrist on the second half of the tribulation. And here's the guy apparently performing miracles already. This is insane. And the Pope doing all of this, of course, is to get everybody under one control, one world government, one world religion, of course, just to make things easier in terms of controlling everybody. And I remember how Islam deceived me, saying, oh, Allah and the God of the Bible is the same one. That's why I went into Islam. But then when you sit down and look at it, it's like, you know what? This is not the same one. How can Allah say it's okay to walk around a big box in Mecca, but he gave Moses the 10 Commandments to tell them don't have idols, don't do things like that.
Yeah.
It can't be the same God. So the Pope is definitely a big agent of the devil, and he's going to cause a great amount of chaos if he hasn't caused it already.
Yeah. Well, look, I've got a letter here from the Vatican. I just want to I want to share with everybody and share with you, because it kind of spells out what we're talking about, how Christianity has been basically it's been kidnapped, if I can put it that way, by this whole situation. Let me just share the screen with you, Muzi. Here we go. Give me a second. There we go. Let me know when you can see it.
Okay, not yet. All right, I see it.
You see it now?
Yeah.
It says Letter 62, 2019, the Vatican. Now, what we've got here is the statement that Archbishop Carlo Mario Vigano has published a new essay on an Italian website, below an English translation. And this image here that we're looking at on the screen is the three different religions on an island in the Middle East. I think it's off Dubai. And you've got the Muslim religion, you've got the Christian religion, and you've got the Jewish religion all together in one spot. And it says, above an artist's comparison of a nighttime aerial view of the Abrahamic family house in Abu Dhabi. It's Abu Dhabi. Each building is dedicated to one of the three monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The world neo-religion will have its temple. Now, I'm sure you've actually seen this and read about this. Do you have any comment to make about this?
Yeah, this is crazy. I think this temple will be ready by next year. People will be able to go there. But if this isn't more proof of this one world religion, I don't know what is. But, you know, it is interesting that they built this. I don't particularly know why. Maybe in their heads they don't think the third temple in Jerusalem will be built, but it's clear as day in the Bible that it will. But either way, this has to be a big symbolic attempt, an expensive one, but it's a huge symbolic attempt that all the major religions are going to be one, all religions are going to be one anyways. And here's the proof. And many people thought the Muslims would never sit side by side with the Jews. But we can see now that the Muslims in Iran, hardcore Islamic country, is falling apart, where you have Muslim women cutting their hair, which is blasphemy, basically. They can't handle real Islam. Real Islam is too difficult for them, as Islam means submission. Just pure submission. They can't handle it anymore. They can't even pray or eat pork anymore. I've seen Muslims here sitting at a restaurant where they sell pork. They done. And so the Antichrist is going to break some of the rules, as the Pope has broken the rules for real Bible Christianity. And the Antichrist will say, look, just worship God who has the name you think he has, and as long as you say you worship him, it's fine. You don't have to really do the ritual stuff as you used to do in real Islam. So it is a huge symbolic attempt here. And we'll see when people start going in next year and what they say about it.
Well, look, I want to read you this little paragraph out of this article that I pulled up. And it's, the mystical bride of Christ over the centuries has never been contaminated, nor will she ever be contaminated, according to Cyprian's words. The bride of Christ cannot be made false to her spouse. She is incorrupt and modest. She knows but one dwelling. She guards the sanctity of the nuptial chamber chastely and modestly. Now, what I'm seeing is that when I was young, and I was brought up in a boarding school, we had a church, and we had Sunday services, is that the only way to God was through Jesus Christ. Now, what this development that they're talking about suggests is that no longer applies. They're trying to suggest that regardless of whether you're Muslim, Jewish, or Christian, you will have a path to Christ. This is hugely confusing. What are your views on this?
It's definitely confusing because Jesus is the only God that's ever said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. The way, there's only one way. And there's everybody else saying, no, there's multiple ways. So that alone is an attack on what Jesus said. No other God has said that, that he's the only way. Buddha never said it, Islam does not say it definitively. And so it's like, wow, there's direct attacks on what Jesus said. And all of this, of course, is to create confusion and create the broad way that leads to destruction, is to make some people think they are on the narrow path. But Jesus said, hey, there'll be few that find it. Because at the end of the day, this is a battle for people's souls, and creating this massive way to destruction allows people to act in crazy ways and, not try to live a repentant life and so on. So it's all deception and confusion. And when there's so much confusion, and then you go to the local church and the pastors confuse himself, it just destroys a curious person's interest or pursuit in knowing the truth, because he would think like, what's going on here? Then there's nothing true. I have to just make up my own mind.
Yeah.
And then they obviously get the wrong idea and stuff.
Now, look, I just want to quickly just say to people who are listening is that Muzi and I have talked many, many times on live streams, and Muzi is one of those people who has an absolutely unique perspective on this whole subject, because Muzi has grown up in basically largely a traditional African type of lifestyle. So he's actually seen the side that we don't see. And I just want to say that when we get back to Halloween, Muzi, and we get back to the African townships and their worship of ancestors and stuff like that, we'll come back to the three religions merging as one shortly. But what are the dangers of Halloween when it comes to vulnerable communities like the Africans in townships?
Now, in the townships, many don't even know what Halloween is, so they don't really celebrate it, but they practice it because of the ancestor worship. So if you have your normal Western home who practice Halloween, if I could touch base on the dangers there, is that they don't see the effects of dressing up as a monster. They don't see how this corrupts your mind and corrupts your understanding, or removes the seriousness of what you're doing. That, hey, dressing up as a monster is wrong. You're inviting bad spirits here, and you're saying it's in the name of playfulness and so on. But we know that this festival is rooted in deep paganism. It's not playful. The people who created it for this specific reason. Just because you want to think it's something else doesn't mean it is something else. And so what it does, it makes children grow up believing that there's no such thing as demons or ghosts and so on and so on. And so they make fun of it. When they hear stories of somebody was possessed, they don't take it serious.
Yeah.
They don't see the demonic influence in their lives anymore, because they were like initiated in this Halloween garbage at a young age. And that was me growing up too, of course. But I had to go through a lot of things, and I realized that, oh, okay, it's messed up. But then in the townships, the dangers of not even knowing that you're practicing Halloween or pagan thing is exactly what we see today. People just burning down their own Jojo tanks and demanding water, and it's like, how are you going to fill it up? When you do this and worship the dead are not, if the dead could talk, they would be jealous of the living.
Yeah.
The dead don't feel anything. They don't feel pleasure, only torment. They can't even feel how warm they are. They're only cold. So why would they give you advice to do something good in your life? They wouldn't. They'd give you the opposite, so you will join them. It's satanic. It's pretty much Satan's goal. He's going down and he wants to take you with him. And so that's pretty much what's going on here, is that in the townships, we see all this chaos. We see violence in the homes, young children stabbing teachers in the chest and setting their cars on fire. Why? because they're home, they've been practicing ancestor worship. There's no order. The ancestors won't tell you to love your husband or love your wife or love your children. They'll never tell you what love even is. And so we have chaos in the townships.
Yeah. Well, look, I just want to take you back to what was economic suicide in 1856 in South Africa. And you would obviously know about this, where the Xhosa people in Transkei, which is now in the Eastern Cape in South Africa, one of the strangest socio-economic disasters. Within 12 months, the population of Xhosaland plummeted by 80%, mostly through starvation. This bizarre episode was initiated by the niece of a witch doctor. Through mass hysteria, the Xhosa convinced themselves of the need to kill all their cattle, destroy all their food, and sow no crops for the future. It was economic suicide, and it led to mass starvation. And this goes back to April 1856, when two young Xhosa girls, 15-year-old Nongwazi and 10-year-old Nombanda, were sent to chase birds from cornfields near the river Kakara. The elder girl, Nongwazi, reported that while they were drinking at the water's edge, two mysterious figures materialized amongst them. They told the girls to take a message back to the kraal that a great event was about to take place. All the people should kill their cattle, as these would no longer be needed. Now, this is the sort of shit that happens in, and this is not, I'm not making this shit up. This actually happened, that 80% of the Xhosa people died of starvation as a result of this event. You're obviously aware of this, Muzi. Do you want to tell us a bit about this?
Now, this just proves my point. The ancestors don't tell you how to improve your life, but only how to destroy it. And the dumb people believe just a random spirit manifesting. Like, what the heck is wrong with you? That's no different. You see, a lot of these people don't learn from their mistakes or the mistakes of others. It's no different to Eve seeing and talking snake and believing what it says. Instead of running and being like, oh, snap, what's going on? You believe what it says.
Yeah.
This little girl believes a spirit that just came to her and said, kill all your cattle. This is complete madness. But again, unfortunately, it just proves my point. I don't like being right when it comes to things like this, but it's clear that we can't ignore it. We see today people burning everything that's important. Young students, graduates, openly saying we just burned property, but I don't think management's still going to listen to us. That's the ancestor. What do you mean you're burning property? You need that. You need that infrastructure, but they burn it. And look, this article proves what I'm saying. Very unfortunate.
Yeah, well, look, I see some crazy stuff in South Africa. I mean, it's just so illogical, where you've got, for example, if you got a little municipality, and the Africans are upset because they're not getting water, for example, or the sewerage system is not working properly, what they go and do is they go and burn down the municipality as retribution. And that's the worst possible thing they could do. It's just illogical.
Yep. And yeah, I mean, demons are going to tell you to do the illogical. And despite all of this, despite the history of ancestors not even helping black people against Jan van Riebeeck, they still worship them. They still talk to them.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, they did nothing for you. Even right now, the ANC has their boot on your neck. You call upon your ancestors. What are they doing for you? The exact opposite of what you're asking them for. But still, they are worshiping them.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to Halloween. How are its roots similar to ancestor worship. We've just been talking about this particular situation in East Griqualand, or that part of South Africa where the Xhosa literally committed suicide by destroying their crops and their livestock.
How it's similar to ancestor worship? Well, the main similarity is honoring the dead. Now, the Druids back then, their main reason of honoring the dead was that, hey, we're going to gather nice treats to give good souls, a meal as they pass by our area, and we want to give the bad spirits, the bad souls who pass by our area, basically convince them not to kill us by putting nice treats and gifts out here. Others, unfortunately, did human sacrifices, saying, oh, we're going to appease the spirits passing by, so on and so on. And then you have modern Halloween, where you get the term trick or treat, the little children when they knock at the door.
Yeah.
That is the same rooted belief that give the spirits a treat or they'll give you trouble. And so Western modern Halloween now is like trick or treat, give me something or else. And for the African practice of Halloween, which they don't know, well, it's not even about trick or treat, give me something or else. It's illogical. They just do it because they grew up seeing other people do it, because they don't get anything. They don't get anything at all. Now, with the Druids, I don't know what they got. They didn't get any trouble or whatever, but they were superstitious. Whenever somebody got the flu, it was a bad spirit, we should honor and kill somebody, But here in Africa, people were dying left, right, and center, regardless of whatever they were doing, being killed by each other. So I don't get why they still do it, because there's really like absolutely no benefit. The witch doctor never sleeps at night because he's terrorized by all the demons, even though he has supernatural powers, but that's the trade-off. And so the similarity of Halloween and the ancestor worship here is just the mere fact that they talk to the dead, but the practice and belief why they talk to the dead is different.
Yeah. Well, look, I want to quote you from the Bible. Jeremiah 23, verses 16 to 18 say, "Thus says the Lord of hosts, do not listen to the words of the prophets who prophesy to you. They make you worthless. They speak a vision of their own heart, not from the mouth of the Lord. They continually say to those who despise me, the Lord has said, you shall have peace. And to everyone who walks according to the dictates of his own heart, they say, no evil shall come upon you. For who has stood in the counsel of the Lord and has perceived and heard his word? Who has marked his word and heard it?" Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because if you look at the whole concept of Halloween, you've got young kids going out, knocking on people's doors, and as you just said, tricks or treats. In other words, you give me some sweets and everything will be good. If you don't give me any sweets, well then, you got a trick, something nasty is going to happen to you. This is very sinister, isn't it?
Yeah, very. And again, growing up as a child, and it becomes like a nursery rhyme, trick or treat, trick or treat. They don't get it. They don't get how serious this is.
They don't understand what they're doing, do they?
They have no clue. I never practiced Halloween like that, but when I saw it on TV, I thought it was cool as a child.
Yeah.
So I didn't get it at all. It's really sad.
Yeah, look, I just think that Satan has got such a hold on the world right now with what's happening. I mean, there's so much that's going on, and especially through the World Economic Forum, and we hear reports of the elite who are having these little parties on Halloween night where they get these kids who've been basically kidnapped and they sacrifice them, and there's all sorts of shit that's going on that we are not privy to. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, the World Economic Forum is one big satanic organization. And you know, the unfortunate thing is the stupid media never mentions it. Everybody's just bickering about racism and blah, 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 while Klaus Schwab gets everything he wants, you know, in a nice bow. Everything Klaus Schwab said would happen is happening. Everything. And nobody's talking about it.
Yeah.
It's very annoying seeing how arrogant and proud the World Economic Forum is, and nobody dares say anything against them. They have these big talks of like how they're going to take away our rights and how we're all going to own nothing and be happy. I mean, look at us right now. They passed EWC. Australia, you guys don't own your houses anymore either. Nobody actually owns their house anymore. BlackRock bought everything. We're already in social, all our countries are basically social countries now. It's crazy. You know, they did it. And now it does seem that by 2030, without a doubt, they're going to own everything.
Yeah.
And we will own nothing. And no one's talking about it. They're just bickering about nonsense.
Well, look, I have to tell you, the thing that disturbs me the most, this is, to me, is the elephant in the room, is this project called CERN in Switzerland, where they're speeding up tiny particles at the speed of sound that hit each other, break up, and according to CERN, who knows how they know this, but obviously they've got some demonic medium informing them. Through doing this, they're able to open portals to different dimensions, like, for example, hell. Have you heard about this?
I have, and one would ask, why on earth would you want to do that? You know, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And I remember there was a festival when CERN relaunched earlier this year, where there was like a demonic festival, people dressed up as, you know, the Baphomet goat, and it was open Satanism.
Yeah.
You know, people dressed up as demons, and it's like, guys, how can you ignore this? I don't care how dumb you are, but this, you can't ignore this. But I guess this will nicely explain away when the demonic horde comes, because it says so in Revelation that one angel will open the abyss and some demonic stuff is going to come out. So they're probably going to blame CERN, and they won't even say, oh, it was hell. It was just maybe the dark dimension, some garbage like that. So it's predictable programming, setting people up to believe things scientifically instead of spiritually. And that's the whole point. They want to make sure people don't believe in Jesus, don't believe in the Bible, and just blame the mad scientists for everything that's wrong.
Yeah. Now, right at the entrance of CERN, there's a statue. A statue of Shiva. I don't know if you've heard about Shiva. Have you?
Yeah, the Indian Hindu god.
Yeah, that's right. Now, the statue of Shiva is basically a god of death, a god of, just satanic, and a god of portals and things like that. Shiva's a cosmic dancer, symbolizing the natural flow of what they claim to be divine energy. He takes part in Rudra Tandava, a dance representing destruction and rebirth to reshape time and space with his wild thunderstorms. Now, this is all about opening portals and bringing in entities into our world which are far, far superior to us when it comes to their spiritual and they're far superior to us, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. It just goes to show that the natural human being prefers something scary like this, something crazy. It doesn't really prefer compassion and kindness and forgiveness. He just wants something destructive and glorious to just look at and glory over and drool at, even though it's going to lead into his own destruction. And this is why people need to be born again, because it doesn't benefit you.
Yeah.
Even if Shiva were to come through a portal, he's going to kill everyone, including you. And all you do is like, wow, that was so cool, as your head is chopped off. That is of no benefit. Really twisted.
Yeah. Look, mate, I just want to say that when it comes to CERN, I think when you look at its location, which is right on the border of Switzerland going into Germany, it's sort of like that area, and the locality of the World Economic Forum, which is on their doorstep, it's almost like everything is centered around that becoming the portal for the Antichrist to come out and basically make itself known, because everything seems to be centered around there, doesn't it?
I'd say for now, yeah. But like a lot of supernatural things are, well, the three angels that are bound, some of the fallen angels, they bound under the Euphrates River. So they're going to come out of there, but I'm pretty sure CERN will say, oh, no, they actually came out of, the CERN portal right there on the border of Switzerland and thingy. All these things are just, they're putting it there to just take people's attention away from what the Bible says, And so it's all a plan. It's a huge net that the devil is throwing across the whole world to capture people's thoughts and wonders. If you try to think outside the box, there's already a net ready to catch you there, to make you think what he wants you to think, make you not look at what the Bible says. So it's very clever and very evil, of course. But yeah, it's out of control.
Yeah. Now look, when we talk about going back to Halloween, and we go back to the traditional African spiritual religion, one of the key things there is talking to the dead. In other words, going to them and getting advice on what they should do on certain things. And that's what the ANC do when it comes to South Africa and trying to lead the country forward. And this is after they've stolen, left, right, and center. They've just destroyed the country. But they always talk about, oh, we're going to talk to the dead and we're going to get advice from them. This is just, to me, it's absolutely crazy. What are your thoughts on that?
Remember last year or the year before, they went to Mandela's bones in the mountain to ask Mandela what they can do. I mean, that's complete madness. But even if they're not doing that, they're just saying that to appeal to it. In a way, when they say things like that, it's to appeal to the cultural side and the traditional side of their fellow blacks, that, hey, I know we're stealing stuff and ruining your lives, but at least that we love the ancestors. And a lot of black people are like, yeah, at least you love the ancestors. Yes, you're killing us. Yes, you're destroying our future. But at least you love the ancestors.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's part of black culture to just take things if you can get away with it. Look at Zuma, look at the ANC, look at all of Africa. If you have power and you can take, you take. Look at the townships. If there's a money truck that broke down, they run and steal the money in the money truck. Look at KZN last year. If there's an excuse to burn, loot, murder, pillage, and steal, they do. There's no concept of right and wrong for my fellow man. That doesn't exist. Their stupid Ubuntu belief is rubbish, because Ubuntu technically means we're all equally poor. We're all equally miserable. That's why I'm not going to let you have more onions than me in your backyard. If you have more onions than me, you're a witch doctor. If you have more onions than me, you stole from me. So I have to equalize everything. That's how they think. And this is demonic, of course. And there was an article that did a study on like tribalistic people who are still stuck in the Stone Age, as clearly a lot of Africans still are, in which that is the belief that if your neighbor has more grapes, his tree has more grapes than your tree, he's a witch doctor. So you have to kill him or equalize the tree. There is no thought of there's no idea of luck. There's no idea of like, you know what, maybe he planted more. Maybe he did a different farming technique than me. Maybe he just worked harder. Maybe he just watered the plant more. Those ideas don't exist. And so what you see with the ANC, there is no concept of like, maybe I should do the work for myself. Maybe I should work harder. Things just have to magically work, you know. And for them, it's like, I'll take as much as I can to eat for as long as I can. They only think with their stomach, sadly.
Yeah. Well, look, I just think of the Durban mayor, the ex-Durban mayor, or eThekwini Durban mayor, Zandile Gomeri, who's facing huge charges of corruption, and yet she is now heading up the ANC branch in KwaZulu-Natal. I mean, you've got this complete breakdown of people who are just rotating from one seat to another because they're part of the ANC cadres who've been shown to be corrupt, and yet they just keep on landing these top jobs. And when you look at what's going on with South Africa and with this worshipping the dead and all this sort of stuff, it kind of demonstrates how absolutely pear-shaped things are in South Africa. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, exactly. They don't mind. You see, in black culture, you can be a rapist and be the mayor, as there really is a mayor now who's a convicted rapist. The mayor of Canaland in Western Cape, convicted rapist. But he's the mayor now, raped a child. Why is he allowed to be a rapist? Why is there no outrage? Because why is there no outrage that Zuma got away with everything? That Zuma's children instigated the destruction of 1 billion rand worth of infrastructure? Because he's popular. That's why. It doesn't matter if the guy's a murderer, a rapist, or serial killer, whatever, as long as he's popular, as long as he knows how to dance and get you moving. Look at Julius Malema. He's speaking like a barbaric tyrant, but because he's good at barking, it makes him popular, regardless of what he says. Kill white people, kill these people, blah, 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 open borders. You know, it's frightening, because at the end of the day, many people just don't understand how is it possible that people underground who suffer at the hands of the ANC, how do you keep voting for the ANC? Yeah. How is this possible?
Yeah.
But now we see that there is a spiritual influence as to why. As you showed us that article of, you know, the spirit that came to the child in the 1800s and told him to slaughter all their cattle.
Yeah.
There is a spiritual influence, and they believe those demonic, illogical spirits. They don't even question as to why would we do something like this. So if the ancestors tell them, keep voting for the ANC, kill all the white people and your problems will be gone. That's illogical, but they do it anyways. So we're at a point where I think it's time we stop being surprised by all this craziness and know that this is their nature and that you have two options. Leave. I don't know where you're going to go anymore because the whole world's messed up. Or build your own Irania, which they're going to come for you eventually. But that's the best thing you can do. Trying to engage with them, trying to reason with them, trying to teach them. They'll call you racist. They'll call me an Uncle Tom if I say 1 + 1 is 2. They'll call me an Uncle Tom if I say ANC is corrupt.
Yeah.
So it's a waste of time. They are a waste of time. And at this rate, they're just an instrument for everybody's demise. That's why they're being put on boats and being shipped to Europe and the West to demolish what's left of it. So unfortunately, it's one big mess.
Mate, look, you mentioned Irania in that comment you made, and I have to say that if you look at Irania, this little town with a few thousand people living in the Northern Cape, just south of the Orange River. It's a settlement which is part of a special agreement that was set up in 1994, where the white community were allowed to have their own particular area. And that community, they're now getting off the grid from Eskom. They're becoming totally independent. And you've got to just look at why is that happening. I really need to know your thoughts on this, Muzi. Why is that happening where you've got a group of Afrikaners, Boers, the people who were called dumb by the British, who've established this little oasis in the middle of South Africa, in the middle of nowhere, where everything is working. They've got very little crime. And everything that the ANC in comparison is a complete and utter basket case.
Well, it's the culture. The Afrikaans culture is we need to cultivate, we need to build, we need to sustain, we need to be proactive, productive. That's their culture. And Orania clearly shows that this is their culture. Unfortunately, what I don't like what they're doing in Orania is some of the officials of Orania keep posting pictures of how nice Orania is, as if it's an invitation to come see how nice it is, like how clean their pools are. And of course, that's a bad idea because the savages will say, you're racist, I need to come in. Like they should learn by now in which if you're going to build something nice, keep it to yourself because you live amongst monsters. Don't advertise how nice something is because they'll call you racist for saying you know how to build better than some. But clearly, they don't know what they're doing, and I don't think Orania is going to last that long anymore because of that. But Orania, again, it's a cultural thing because I've seen it myself when I worked in a high school teaching the unfortunately doomed children there. My colleagues, whenever we got paid at the end of the month, first thing they did was go to the liquor store. But by the end of the weekend, all the money's gone. And I would like, guys, seriously, aren't you going to save this money? You don't know when you're going to get another job because we're only working there for 3 months. And they said, no, we need to relax. We need to have a good time. And these are graduates, by the way. Mm-hmm. These are people with degrees and some of them working on their masters. It's complete utter madness, and it shows that memorizing a textbook doesn't make you intelligent. Memorizing an equation doesn't mean you can apply it, because all these black engineers and stuff like that, black engineer graduates, where are they building something in their community? But I will say that if he is a black engineer graduate and he's trying to build something in the township, he can't because his neighbor will burn down his efforts, or the Nigerian will hold him hostage and say, you need to pay me 50% for everything you're doing. They can't work together because it's part of their culture. You have to drag me down. It's that same belief of, if you have more grapes than me in your grape tree, you're a witch doctor, so I have to cut it down to equalize everything. If the majority in their community is poor, and you come with an idea and you try to build to uplift everybody, they'll say, who the heck are you? We all have to be poor. And then they'll cut you down. And so, like the black farmers are terrorized by their black people. The black people they hire, they might not kill the black farmer, but they sure as heck steal everything. They steal all the cabbages, all the cattle, even a tractor. In the middle of the night, you don't even know how they stole it, but it's gone. You know, there is just zero sustainability, because the culture is, I will take for myself when I can, whatever I can, because I think I can get away with it. And I will unite with my fellow black only if it's to fight against white people all the time. And notice that they will never fight against an Arab or an Indian that says anything racist or bans them, like the UAE just banned 20 African countries' visas. No black people are allowed to go there anymore. Where's the outrage? Nowhere. But if Trump did it, racist. If Europe did it, racist. Yeah. And so this is the problem that we're dealing with here, is that you can't deal with these people. They can't build anything because they are their worst enemy. And even if I were to tell them what I'm telling you, they would call me a liar and they'd kill me. So how do you deal with such a thing? You can't. You know, that's why people end up leaving Africa. But those who are lucky enough to leave bring their stupidity with them, not realizing that I left because people don't appreciate hard work. People don't want to work together. They don't realize that. They just go there and take their stupidity with them and just destroy the West, basically.
Yeah, well, look, I think the great destroyer of civilization right now is the fact that when you go to the lowest common denominator, which is what's happening globally, where you've got, for example, in Europe, literally millions of illegal immigrants flooding into the countries like Germany and France and Denmark and so on. What's happening is that the people who traditionally lived there are saying, well, look, we can't fight them, we might as well join them. So you've got this incredible destruction of society happening in Europe right before our eyes. It is quite extraordinary. And this brings me to the point, Muzi, about pagan liberalism. Now, pagan liberalism. Is this the new world religion?
Absolutely. Because liberalism today is not the liberty of old, you know. Liberalism of today tells you you're free to do whatever you want and practice whatever you want. Become a witch, put it on Instagram, on TikTok, make it popular, show people how to do rituals and magic circles. And practicing all these things rots your mind. And then eventually children see that on TikTok, see it, it's cool, and then they follow suit. And then liberalism today, with its warped sense of freedom, is that, you know, everybody has to be equal and free. But if you try to advocate for personal, you know, ownership, personal rights, they want to bite your head off. In fact, the liberal of today, the white liberal today, is turning into the crazy savage in Africa who wants to equalize you for having a bigger apple tree than him. He wants to cut down your tree. The crazy liberal in the West says, no, let all the savages come in. We need to equalize everything and equally share everything with them. But they're hypocritical when they are questioned, would you let a savage come into your house and sleep there? And they say, well, maybe for a few days, but then they have to go elsewhere. That's illogical. You know, it's illogical. And so this pagan liberalism is really like, it's now the foundation of my generation and people younger. I'd say people born in the 2000s are completely fried in the head, vaporized They cannot see anything that is definitely right or wrong. There's no such thing. A lot of them just believe in absolute freedom, and then what they believe is wrong is when something personally hurts them, like someone got raped. But then if somebody screams Allahu Akbar from Iran and says, I raped a German woman because she was wearing a short skirt, it's not my fault, the liberal will make an excuse for Allahu Akbar, you know, until she gets raped herself. Then what happens? Silence. The white person who's a liberal who supports Black Lives Matter, who 2 years ago got her house burnt by the same Black Lives Matter black group that she was working with, cried on social media that I was supporting them, I was with them, but they still burned down my house. I don't understand this. Of course you don't understand it. You don't understand this is a tool to destroy your people, to destroy your countries, and you are promoting it because you're a liberal. You're virtue signaling, you're good, so on and so on. And so this it's basically cultural Marxism, but the way it's been sold to people is really sinister, in which they now believe farming causes climate change and all farming should stop. That's complete madness. So now they are advocates for death in the name of good. They say humans are the problem. Carbon zero. Carbon zero means no human life, or probably means no life at all on the planet. I mean, that's basic science, right? But they say, no, we need to reach carbon zero. And it's like, why don't you start with yourself by walking off a cliff? If humans are the problem, you start eating bugs then. Be the example. You walk into a volcano. Be the example. But of course they don't, you know. So this pagan liberalism is a curse. It's a massive curse that's spread throughout the entire planet now. Or even young Africans think the same way because of TikTok, this social media stuff. So we're in trouble, really in trouble.
Well, look, I look at that sign behind your head, and I see it says palm trees. It says salty air, sun-kissed hair, endless summer, and what's it? Ocean breezes, I think it is. But I mean, that to me sums up the beauty of our environment. You know, we live in this amazing world where we've become captured in all these weird things which have absolutely no relevance to who we are and what we do and the lives we live, and they're all satanic. It is just absolutely awful. And Halloween, that's tonight, Monday, the 31st of October. Halloween is the night where, in the Western world in particular, and I want people to know this, there's going to be sacrificial killing of children by the elite. This is not something I'm making up. It's something which has been well recorded, that the elite actually sacrificially kill children of all ages. And have you heard about this, Muzi?
I have, and unfortunately, there's just more and more information coming out of children being sacrificed, kidnapped, molested, and all these things. It's out of control. We're pretty much going back to ancient Babylon, and it's becoming normal. Besides, they just legalized pedophilia anyway in the states, some of the states, but it's pretty much nationwide, where now a child can sleep with a grown person as long as they gave consent. And many people argue as to, like, well, if an underage child can give consent to sleep with another underage child, why can't they give consent to an adult? This is where we are, you know. And people who are advocates for pedophilia are not banned, they are not censored. The transgenders flapping their bits to the children, nobody says anything. The mothers who take their children there, they're completely warped in the head. Like, we are now in ancient Babylon, where Satanism really runs the world.
Yeah.
And if we try to speak against it, you're racist, or you're a pedophobic hater, something like that. And it's completely ridiculous. But I will say that it is the fault of a lot of Western Christians for not doing anything. Always sitting down and waiting for somebody to do it for you. Here comes a comedian to speak for you as a grifter, and you think the comedian's going to save the day. You think the comedian's going to go to the school, your school where your child goes to tell the teachers to stop messing up the children. This is cowardness. This is terrible. If I knew better, but I was too young. If I knew better long ago, I wouldn't have participated for this or allowed stuff to get as far as it did. I would have tried to do something. But those who saw this happening, those who see it happening and still waiting for Trump to do something about it, you're part of the problem. You know, it's very, very annoying to sit there and to just type in the comments on your favorite grifter that I appreciate you speaking for us. No, you're a disgrace.
Yeah.
You're not a Christian, you're a disgrace. You're part of the problem. You should have done something.
Yeah.
So,
well,
yeah.
Look, I look at the South African Council of Churches. You know, they played a huge role back in the early 1990s in bringing South Africa to what they called the Rainbow Nation. But under the new leadership of the South African Council of Churches, they have completely lost the plot. They're actually the problem now, aren't they?
Yeah, they've been paid off, and it's no longer about the Lord. It's about money. It's about fame, having a famous celebrity come to your church, having the shiniest suit. It's a joke, and I don't even know why people go to church anymore. Like, what do you get out of it? You're legit being lied to, being told peace, peace, when there is no peace in the world.
Yeah.
They're not teaching you prophecy. They're not teaching you doctrine. You know nothing. And yet you go there and pay money for this guy who's supposed to have a job. He can't live as a pastor. He needs a job. But they don't get it, you know. And the churches have failed. And those who still go to church, they go there for a good time, you know, just to have milk and cookies and sing.
Yeah.
But there's no truth in them anymore.
Yeah. Well, look, we have a resident pastor on Loving Life, Dan Berryman, who's an old guy. He's in his late 70s, I guess. And, you know, he is salt of the earth. He's one of the real traditionalist pastors. And he's currently doing a series on Revelations and what's happening. And, you know, it's a really, really incisive study into the Bible. And there are some, just like with the South African Police Service, just like with doctors, just like with any other profession, there are some wonderful people in that profession. But sadly, a lot of those people have lost their way, and they're now basically money-driven, and they have absolutely no real moral integrity. It is so sad.
Yeah, it's very sad. And, you know, it's also hard for Christians like myself, you know. I've been shown, you know, stuff by the Lord, but I can't talk about it because either people will think I'm crazy or so on.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to say is it's hard to find people who can relate with you, like at least 90% of the time.
Yeah.
It's hard. And now you can't even have real friends anymore. All the friends I grew up with, all of them are drug addicts right now.
Wow.
Completely gone. Stoners. And it's like, come on. I can't even go get a milkshake with some of the guys I grew up with.
Yeah.
Because they completely fried in the head. it sucks, and this does affect me. I get depressed, or not depressed, but down very often, where my
Muzi,
emotions just dip.
Muzi, we've been talking to you for years on Loving Life, and you know you've had some pretty rough times in your personal life, but you've now got a job. You're actually earning an income. I'm hoping we can actually supplement that through Loving Life in the future. You've now got a lovely girlfriend who you've been with her for about a year now, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, if you went back like 18 months ago, when I remember we talked, and you were in a very bad place. How are you now in comparison to that?
Yeah, a lot better. I mean, back then, I was going to die of stress, to be honest. I was not going to make it. So, 10 times better now. Praise the Lord. But yeah, you know, I just wish I did have guy friends that I could hang out with. It's normal, you know. Yeah.
Well, look, mate, you're part of the Loving Life family, so you have got guy friends you can hang out with. You've just got to reach out to them, because you know, we are just people. That's all we are. We're just, and we all feel and believe the same way. Now, I'm going to wrap up this live stream very shortly, but if we look at, I'm taking us back to this because it's Halloween night. If we look at the prophecy in the Bible, and we look at what Halloween represents, it is a complete and utter, it's just so ill-fitting into what Christian beliefs are all about, isn't it?
Yeah, very. But since people are biblically illiterate now, and many popular so-called Christian teachers on YouTube are biblically illiterate too, you know, people don't know what they're doing is completely wrong.
Yeah.
It's their fault, of course, for not doing their research, but this is the problem. It's the algorithm as well. It promotes liars and people who are deceived already as, you know, the example, and that's not the case. And people like our channel were suppressed, you know. And so, yeah, if only people knew better. They do know better. They have a Bible in their house. It's been on the coffee table for 50 years. So there is no excuse. But ultimately, everybody made their choice. And on Judgment Day, there will be no arguments as to what you're guilty of.
Yeah.
So repent for those who have not repented.
Yeah.
Or else.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a pastor, J.D. Farag. I don't know if you've watched any of his videos, but he actually sums up how to become born again so simply. And it's
the ABC.
The ABC, yeah. Accept Christ as your Savior, believe that Christ is your Savior, and then the C is basically, you know, just turn around your life and become a Christian. It's a really, really simple formula, isn't it?
It's very simple, but it's difficult. It's difficult because you have to accept and confess that you are a sinner. And that's something that's hard for everyone, especially when you are still in a moment in your life where you love the evil that you do. You love going to brothels. If you still love that, there's no way you're going to confess that, oh, this is wrong. No ways. It's just not going to happen. That's why in Psalm 52, I think it says, the Lord accepts those with a broken and contrite heart. It's only when that sort of lifestyle has disappointed you and threw you in the gutter, that you're heartbroken and destroyed, in which now now you're at a point where you can confess that, you know what, this lifestyle wasn't it, and I'm sure pursuing that lifestyle isn't going to be it. So Lord, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And it's only then that the Lord can give you a new heart. But so long as people are prideful and still having a good time being stupid, well, nothing's going to happen. There'll be no change.
Yeah. Muzi, look, I love talking to you, buddy. I just really think that you are so much on the money, and I'm just so happy that we've had this chance to talk to you about your views on Halloween and ancestral worship and all this sort of stuff. Is there anything you'd like to say to people just in wrapping up this live stream?
Okay, well, guys, at this point, it's every man for himself. Whatever you believe, that's on you. If you're comfortable with it, that's on you. But if you want to make sure that you make it to the other side, to Christ, basically, do your research. Send me an email. Let's talk about it. You know, let's not be arrogant and steadfast in our ways, because if there's no benefit, then there's no benefit. And since now the so-called Messiah is already there in Jerusalem, and the rabbis are kissing his hands, and he's performing miracles, as 2 Thessalonians said that he'll perform false miracles and stuff, that tells me that we're about to leave in terms of the rapture.
Yeah.
If you don't believe in the rapture, that's on you, but that shows me that we're close. So do your research. Just do your own research. That's all.
Well, I got to say, we live in exciting times. I'm going to leave it at that. Now, how can people contact you? What's the best way? Have you got a WhatsApp phone number or something like that?
Well, I do, but I prefer people to email me.
Yeah, what's your email?
Muzi Nkosi 984 at gmail.com.
Okay. Now, is that one word? So in other words, Muzi Nkosi 984, one word, at gmail.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Look, I'll put that down below this live stream so people can actually send you an email and make contact with you. And look, Muzi, mate, look, you and I go back a long way. I remember when we first contacted you, it was, 3 years ago now?
Yeah, pretty much. Nearly.
And, you know, we followed you and the ups and downs and stuff like that. And one thing I have to say is that, you know, you have an incredibly unique perspective on things, because you've been very tied up with the traditional side, but you've also had the benefit of actually being outside the traditional side. And, you know, you can actually see things from two different angles, which is quite unique, isn't it?
Well, from 3 angles, since I was a Muslim as well.
Yeah,
so
well, let's not worry about the Muslim side, because that just complicates issues.
Yeah. No, I had a good opportunity to see things from different sides, so I can see which is the best and logically prove why this one is the best for any human being.
Yeah. So okay. So how can people fix things? Let's wrap that up on how can people fix things by perhaps being born again.
Well, we see the fruits of not being born again. Madness, burning of schools, liberals foaming at the mouth, children being sodomized by crazy LGBT people. Those are the fruits of not being born again. The fruits of being born again is being level-headed, such as myself, and knowing what the truth is, and being able to defend the truth, so on and so on, and not being emotionally triggered when things don't go your way. Because we see with other people who are not born again, when things don't go their way, they flip out, they burn stuff. And so that's the only way to fix things. It's just be born again, the real way, where there is a supernatural change to your personality. Because if I wasn't born again, I'd be a savage burning down a school right now.
Yeah.
I really would. This is supernatural, the fact that I can articulate everything I'm saying. Where's another person who looks like me but is saying what I'm saying? Where are they? I haven't met one, right? So that alone should be a supernatural sign to you guys that, okay, Jesus is the only way, because he gave this guy a brain. So go figure.
Yeah. Well, look, I had a live stream with a fellow a few nights ago, and we were talking about basically ESCOM and the mind shift, how you actually change your way of thinking about things. And for those people who are sitting on the fence right now when it comes to accepting Jesus as your Lord and Savior, guys, you're running out of time, aren't they?
Running out of time. I'm tempted to say that you're out of time, but so long as you're alive and you're hearing this, I guess not. But there's no benefit to your atheism. It never worked. It doesn't help you. You're depressed. You're smoking drugs. You can't negate all your desires as I'm supernaturally able to.
Yeah.
You know, so there's no benefit to being anything other than a real Christian. None. Because it's all these liberal ideas of believe what you want that got us here. Being an atheist got us here. Being an ancestor worshiper got us here. But if everybody was born again, well, we wouldn't be here now, would we? We'd all have a decent lives.
Yeah.
So, no excuses.
Yeah. Look, we live in an extraordinary world, and Muzi, I just want to say it's always fantastic talking to you. Look, I have something I want to do, which I traditionally do here on Loving Life TV during a live stream. And I have a huge amount of respect and admiration for you, okay? You're an absolutely unique personality. And I would be honored if you will accept the mantle of being one of our Loving Life heroes here on Loving Life.
No, sure. That'd be great.
Okay. Well,
appreciate it. It would be a great achievement for me that, hey, at least you did something right.
Mate, you've done a lot of stuff in your life, right? And, you know, there are a lot of people rooting for you. And congratulations on being the latest Loving Life channel hero. And I can tell you that this year we've only had three Loving Life heroes. So it's not something we hand out willy-nilly. We had Mark and Mel Fashir and Michaela Tunison Hart. And now we have Muzi Nkosi as our Loving Life hero. All right, buddy, take care and have a great day.
All right, thanks, Scott. Bye.
Okay. Cheers, mate. Bye for now. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap up the live stream there, and we'll go out with our favorite song, which is, of course. Okay, now let me get back to me. All right, guys, thank you for joining me tonight, and I have to tell you that when I recorded that with Muzi, I'd had no sleep for 24 hours, so if I sounded a bit tired, you understand why. And the last 5 or 6 weeks have been pretty full on getting Loving Life TV going again, but we're pretty much there now. And don't forget, from tomorrow morning there will be an email in your letterbox if you've registered on lovinglifetv.com with the latest updates on Loving Life TV, and of course that'll include the forums as well as the videos the featured video, and of course the live stream that's coming up tomorrow. So yeah, look, we're pretty much back to square one, and next week I'm going to be taking a break for a couple of days just so that I can calm my nerves, because it's been quite a battle getting this whole show back up again. All right, I'm going to go out now with, let me have a look, Op Ons Rots, I think. Okay. Take care, guys, and thanks to the mods for the great work that you guys do in the side chat. Here we go.
Ons loop hand aan hand op goue warm sand, so baie wat ek wil hê, so baie dit brand. Ek staan op my rots met golwe wat bots. Ons het geen vrees, want hy is in beheer. Ons sien al die planne van goddeloze manne. Ons weet hulle gaan nie wen nie, dis geskryf soos 'n duif. Ons sal wen, aanhou glo, want hy is in beheer. Waai sterk, dis kragte wat werk. Die gevoel in my hart, dis vrees wat wil brand. Ons is boere met trots, met my hand teen my bors. Ons ken geen vrees, want hy is in beheer. Ons sien al die planne van goddeloze manne. Ons weet hulle gaan nie wen nie, dis geskryf soos 'n duif. Ons sal wen, aanhou glo, want hy is in beheer. Ons sien wat gebeur, die leer sal ons nie steen. Kom slaan nog 'n keer, ek is stil, want ek weet hy is in beheer. Ons sien al die planne van goddeloze manne. Ons weet hulle gaan nie wen nie, dis geskryf soos 'n duif. Ons sal wen, aanhou glo, want hy is in beheer. Ons sien al die planne van goddeloze manne. Ons weet hulle gaan nie wen nie, dis geskryf soos 'n duif. Ons sal wen, aanhou glo, want hy is in beheer. Ja, hy is in beheer.